Hey, what's going on YouTube? Today we're talking about the final preparations before Zone 2.
Prepare for battle!
Okay, so at the time I'm recording this, there's about 11 hours before Zone 2 opens, and obviously that's when the real PvP of the season begins. I'm making my final preparations right now. I'll probably go to sleep pretty soon so I can wake up fully refreshed and, fight this Zone 2 as long as I can before I have to, return to my real life. Okay, and so the major new development here obviously is the upgrade for Seluna. The bottom line is if she is actually flying, she is extremely strong, but slight nerf to her ground speed marches. I bought out the bundle to her, but that's all I've developed her so far. You can see, 5322. Obviously, I'll be working on her. I expect I'll have her awakened before the end of the season. And, still only level 39, but that's just because I have some Darklings to do before the actual fighting begins. Before, the actual fighting begins, trust me, I'll make her level 60. I have more than enough experience books to get her to level 60 as soon as I want. But the thing is, as she's upgraded, it really broke my presets. They were really kind of hanging by a string for a while now. So I figured, hey, it's a good time to redo all my presets. And, that's what we're talking about today. So I'm sort of making my final preparations for the actual fighting. Okay, with that said, let's go through the presets that I'll be using, all right? And we'll start with the individual presets here. And preset number 1, this is just my standard cav rally. I'll use this for things like Dark Forts or what have you, but if also I need to rally a pass, an enemy city, something like that, this is the cav rally I'm going with, okay? Number 2, this is my infantry rally. Now, I'm not using the new infantry because basically I still need to develop them, still need to develop the war pets. So, Laquan, Kuma, still super strong, still working good for me. If I need to make an infantry rally, this is what I'm going with. As for the infantry garrison, however, I have switched to the hybrid here, and I do think this is currently the best garrison in the game. Obviously, I have Eleanor at the front here with her, garrison skills and garrison talent. Now, the thing with Eleanor Kuma is the new pet, the Brimstone, it needs Joran to work. And so if you're going to use Eleanor Kuma, Kuma makes the Moss Rock work. So I'm sticking with the Moss Rock here, and I do think that is the correct answer for the garrison in the meta right now, right? Number 4 here, this is my emergency staff preset. Now look, if you have time to set up, you can figure out exactly who you want to be the staffer for you. But sometimes, hey, we need the instant staff. You go right now. And so I do find it helpful to have a staff set up ahead of time, just so I can, push number 4 here and it's ready to go. And finally, number 5, this is just my go grab a runestone, grab a dark chest type of setup. This is sort of like the fastest march I have if I need to get somewhere quick. Preset number 5 is how I do it. Okay, so let's go through the multi-marches here. And frankly, this is what I use most of the time. Now, as we go through these, the important just piece of advice whenever you have your multi-march set up is always to arrange your marches from strongest to weakest, right? Because, if you have all 5 marches available, this is what you send out, no kidding. But as you might not have marches available, maybe you got troops in a bastion, maybe you got someone in a resource node or whatever, you want to make sure the stronger marches, not the weaker marches, get set out. And so this is my cav setup, and this is the one I think most impacted by the Seluna upgrade, right? Because I used to have Seluna with Urag to give him that 20% march speed. And all of these marches here, right, they're synced at 61% movement speed. Okay, well, when Seluna went away, I couldn't do that anymore. I had to respec Ureg to get him to 41% march speed. He gets 10% from his skill, so that's 51. But I had to give him a deputy with another 10% march speed. And I went with Theo here, the G2 pair. So why did I do that? Well, the G4 and the G5, they're sticking together. No question about these guys perform extremely well for me. Theo himself is not all that strong, but he does put the bruise debuff on, whatever target he hits, which is, pretty strong. And the bruise debuff benefits everyone. So I wanted to keep him in, in the lineup somewhere because I don't have the bruise debuff from, anyone else in this march. I thought about, maybe putting Magro or something like that in here, but I ended up going with Theo. He does give me the march speed, so that should work fine. For the G2 marches, I decided to give them the Warhammer here, and I finally put Mu with Ferranda. We'll see how that works out. Mu's been a pretty popular pick for Ferranda for a while now. But I was always kind of reluctant to pair them together because Moo's kind of a key component of my mage marches, and I was worried about the stamina drain, having her in both. I'm still worried about that. We'll see how that plays out, but for now, that's where I'm going. And then finally, I have, Emerus and Tobin here. Emerus can get to the 61 movement speed all by himself, and I put Tobin in there because, this is the blink march for me, so this tends to get focused a little bit more, and Tobin is a little bit more defensive. And so this is sort of like official. I have now benched Bakshi. Bakshi's been benched before, and he's always sort of managed to sneak his way back. But right now, I don't think he's coming back. I think Bakshi's going to be on my bench for good. Okay, so this is my Cav preset number 1. Number 2 is my Mage preset. And my core ranged presets, they always include an Infantry in the right slot here. I do think it is helpful. I do think it is a good rule of thumb to always include an Infantry, out there to help your alliance when you're sending your ranged marches. Obviously, there are exceptions, but most of the time I like to send 4 ranged marches and 1 infantry out. Okay, so for the moment, I still have Youngming and Grimora as my top-rated mage pair, but, I've seen the reports. We'll test this out. Bert and Seluna upgraded here, and I'm making sure they're flying, right? This is Celestials. They have a flying pet, so we'll see if this works, and maybe they get upgraded to the first spot here. One sort of little component that you'll have to be wary of if you're using Seluna as a flying march to support your other marches is because she flies, this march here flies, the rest of them don't. They will often take a slightly different path. Now, usually it's good to have them fly, but you want to keep them together for the most part. And, if you're in friendly territory using roads, the flying march does not take advantage of that. So just be wary when moving these guys around. All right. So third march here, I have Lily Valen and, Mu Thea. I see these are pretty comparable. Thea and Mu here, they need Celestials. So now Lily Valen has been relegated to using the Vestals, right? So I got 3 Celestial marches and then 1 Vestal march here. And of course, Kuma Lakewan is sort of my infantry pair holding things down here. Not quite ready to promote the G5 infantry hero to be my default infantry in the field, although it's getting close. It'll happen sooner rather than later. Okay, so mages, this is the new mage setup for me. Now we move to March 3 here. This is my archer setup. Nothing particularly new here. I haven't really gone very far into archers since, Magze. I definitely invested in them. Kind of invested a little bit in the G4 archers, kind of because I got tricked, but haven't really gone full on them. Sindri and Fragar, Kanara, Nico still hanging out here, and then with the infantry holding it down. Like I said, I'm not an archer player. I do see people running the G5 archers, maxed out. They're super strong. I just, I can't invest in everything, and archers are not the thing for me. All right, preset 4. This is my infantry spam, and you can see where I view my infantry here. Obviously, like I said, Kuma Lakewan still on the far left here. The G5, Joran, and Elenar. Moving up strong here. They don't have the Exemplar artifact yet. I'm still working on their war pet, but I think they're very good. Gorish Skogul, they're sort of, I did go full in on them when they came out. Obviously, the Gorish, the reign of Gorish is past. He's no longer performing all that well for me. But he still is my 3rd strongest infantry pair. Now, you might ask, what about the Danfil Magro over here? The bottom line is I never invested in Danfil Magro. I got the shield here exemplar, just, it was a random pull. I don't even think I have it maxed out, right? It's only level 2. And then the Moon Bear here is not particularly well developed. But, sometimes you need a shield, so that's why these guys are here. And then Madeline Garwood. Not a big fan of them, but sometimes you need to throw all the infantry out you can, and this is my preset for infantry. Okay, then we sort of get into the specialty marches. Number 5 here, this is the pure flyers. This is how I've broken them up so far. We'll see if I stick to this. I've had Bert and Bayhorn together for a while now because they're more the skill damage, hit hard march. I'm going to try Thea and Seluna together. They have a very strong Sapphire, and the shield, obviously works very well with flyers. This is a very defensive march. Seluna does feel like she's very strong, so keeping these guys just alive and, topped off as long as you can. This is my initial thought. We'll see how it goes. You don't really have a great option for your 3rd pair. Atheist is fine, and then you have, right? You have 3 options after Atheist. You have Craig here, and that's what I went with. You also have Fragar and Ferondel. I decided to not use Frondel exactly because of the stamina issue. He's not that good anyway. I don't really think there's an amazing reason to choose Craig over Frhagar, other than I guess I use Frhagar over here, so Craig doesn't have any stamina issues using him in the slot, but whatever. I hope we get at least one more hero viable for flying mages so they can set three pairs out that makes sense. For this march, I made sure that they have this sort of the debuff artifact, because like these guys aren't going to do any damage. Although Sapphire here is decent, but they're there mostly just to support the other two marches. Okay, so we go to March 6th, and this is my like 5-mage march. If I want to send out just all mages, no infantry, this is what I'm doing. The major change here is I've split up Young Ming and Grimora and brought out the G3 mages. I put Cowgirl with Young Ming because she works well with Young Ming, but pretty much any mage works well with Young Ming, so that's what I'm doing there. And then I have Thundolin and Grimora. The reason I have Thundolin in the lead spot is this is really sort of a support march, right? I have the Breath of Gigantus and Thundolin spec'd out to sort of, support the other marches, not do all the damage herself. I have a pretty, uninspiring Seraphic with them, but I just, I have 4 decent mage pets. So if I have to do 5 mages, one of my marches is going to sort of, take the hit here. All right. And my last sort of standard preset here is number 7. And this is sort of the anti-city hopper build, right? And I have Thundolin with Atheist with a Frost Lizard and Magic Bomb. This is sort of really the, I want to get that debuff on you as quickly as I can, right? So Thundolin herself puts the debuff on players. The Magic Bomb obviously will, debuff them and stop them from going to cities. Atheist is there because he's really a rage generation machine, right? His second skill here gives him a lot of rage generation, so these things will go off as quickly as possible. And then finally, the Ice Lizard, much like Thundolin, if the Ice Lizard has its debuff on you, you can't enter a city, you can't enter a bastion, etc. I have all the archers out here because they're obviously more normal attack focused, and they can sort of, if they get that quick 1-2 turn hit off someone jumping out of a city, it will hurt them, whereas like the mages have to wind up here. And then I have an infantry march. I have the torque here just in case I'm able to charge it up. Obviously, if you want sort of the standard magic bomb, you do something like Garwood Madeline or Garwood Eliana with a magic bomb. That works fine here. But this is sort of my like, hey, we're in the city hopping scenario. Let's bring out the anti-city hopping squad, right? And those are all my presets. 8, 9, and 10 I'm using for just like some experimental stuff. Like I used 9 to record the marches that I was using the Crucible. 10 is usually sort of my leveling preset, but nothing that I'll use for combat. All right, hey, that's what I got for you today. I'm looking for our zone 2. Like I said, by the time you watch this video, we'll have been fighting for like 24 hours or so. I'll see how it's going, but I'm really looking forward to the KVK this season. And until next time, you stay classy, Beller.